What's up, family? It's Cousin Five, and I'm back in the building. I missed y'all, man. I've been on a little hiatus. It's really been about 3 weeks, and that's way too long to be away from the family. I'm sorry about that, man. I'm sorry. Y'all accept my apology? I appreciate it. That's what's family for, and I really appreciate y'all because life has been lifing. But on top of that, I've just been living life too. You know, sometimes you got to step away from what you're doing and really just live life. Because I love reading, I love books, I love y'all, but I got a life to live. You know what I'm saying? I like to have fun. I like to experience different things. So that's what I went out and did in this little hiatus that I took. I done rode horses, I done go-karted, I done did a bunch of stuff. I had some fun, but I said it's time to... That wasn't supposed to happen. But I said it's time to come back to my family, so that's what I'm about to do. And as y'all can see from the title of this video, I have every book that I've read in 2024 so far. Now, I think I have about 19 books here. I was supposed to read a lot more than that thus far, but that's the way it goes. Sometimes you read more, sometimes you read less. Sometimes you just be right on the money. But I'm a little less right now. But that's okay, because it's not a competition on who reads the most. I'm reading at my pace, the speed that I can read with everything else that I got going on. You feel me? We are going to go over all of the books I've read. I'm going to talk about them a little bit. I'm going to rate them. I'm going to let y'all know how I felt about them. Because I got some books that I loved in here. I got some books that I ain't really like so much. And I got some books that was like, it was okay. It was okay. We gonna get into it. We gonna go through all these books, and I got some books in here that y'all have not seen because I read some books that I didn't put in some of my videos, and I feel like I should have because they some good books. Wait. Before we get into the video, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor today, and that is Skillshare. I know we've talked about me crocheting on Skillshare. I know we've talked about me learning how to journal, but now I really been wanting to hone in on my content creation skills, and with the learning paths and classes on Skillshare, it's going to be super easy to do. If you don't know about Skillshare, Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives. It has thousands and thousands of classes for creatives designed by creatives. And Skillshare has a learn by doing approach, which allows you to create a project and share that with the class and get feedback from the community. And when I say they have a lot of classes, they have a lot of classes. I mean, that goes from design, film, illustration, photography, entrepreneurship. You can literally get into anything that you choose to get into. I know I was talking about me getting into content creation, and the class that I'm going to be taking is social media content creation in Canva. So I can use this class to go from beginner all the way to advanced. And you already know that it's summertime. That comes with school breaks, maybe slower work schedules. So many of us find ourselves with more time to explore our passions and our hobbies. I know this summer, I'm going to really get into content creation and get deep in my content creation bag. So Skillshare lets you do the same because the first 500 people to use the link in my description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. How about we let Skillshare help us turn those I want tos to I made it happen? Let's get it. All right, cousins, aunts, uncles, nephews, nieces, brothers, sisters, whoever you want to be to me, we related, we family. Cousin Five, your favorite book cousin, about to get into his reads of 2024 so far. Let's get it. The first book on deck is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. This was one of the best books that I've ever read. Again, this author is very controversial. Do what you will with that information. Please do your research. But for the book itself, this book was phenomenal. Harry Potter has another fan in me. I probably read this book in, I don't remember, I made a video on this. I read this book in a couple days, but I didn't think I would like Harry Potter. I never read Harry Potter before I read it for the first time. This was one of the best reads, hands down. The way that the author wrote This book was phenomenal. The characters were very intriguing. I was laughing, shouting, mad, sad, all throughout this book. I give this book a solid 4.7. 100%. I would give it 5 stars. I don't know why I don't. But 4.7, really 4.8 for sure. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, definitely a read. If you haven't read it, please get into it. The next one we got, another banger. I love this book. I love this book. I love this book 110,000%. And that is 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. This book was one of like the first real romance books that I've ever read. And when I tell you I was stuck on this book from the first few pages, I was stuck on this book. I ate this book down. Tia Williams really knows how to write a book, and she knows how to keep your interest in the book. This is a real romance book. Don't know what it's about. It's just about a single mom who is an author and another guy who is an author as well. And they knew each other when they were younger, and some traumatic things happened and they split up for a very long period of time. They were writing to each other in their books throughout that time. And by happenstance, they see each other at an event and things pop off and it gets crazy. I'm telling you, this book to me was 5 stars hands down. I will recommend this book to anybody. I mean, my homies ask me about books and I recommend them this book. Most men aren't gonna read a book like this, but I'm telling you, fellas, get into this Tia Williams, man. It's gonna get you together. Okay, so the next one we got is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. I DNF'd this book. I didn't like it. I didn't like the writing. I honestly thought it was corny a little bit. You know, I'm gonna keep my reviews real raw. You know what I'm saying? This is really how I felt about these books. It was too predictable. It was very predictable and it felt very obsessive. It was already like they liked each other from the beginning. I didn't feel like there was an enemies to lover trope or anything that people portray this book to be. I feel like they liked each other from the beginning and it was just a weird, obsessive, like, hey, come get me vibe. Like, I wasn't here for it. I got about halfway through it, but I just couldn't finish it. If you want this copy, you can have it. So hit my line. JK. The next one we're going to talk about is Earthlings by Sayaka Murata. Now, before I even talk about this wild ass book, there is a lot of trigger warnings in this book, especially for essay. It is wild, to say the least. This book was really good, though. That's what I'm going to say. Oh, and I didn't give The Hating Game a rating. 2. That's all I'm going to get out. I'm not going to lie. A 2 is me being fair, honestly. Back to Earthlings. This book was super good. I was really caught off guard by this book because I knew nothing about the book. Synopsis is very deceiving. I'm not going to lie. It's very deceiving. This is one of those books that if you read it, you're going to like it, but it's gonna catch you off guard. 100%. 100%. If you don't read any reviews and you just read the synopsis and you going off of the cover and all of that, you in for a wild motherfucking ride. This book is basically about Natsuki and her cousin Yu, and they feel like outsiders in their family. They got a bunch of weird stuff going on. They disappear from each other for a long time after, a traumatic event for the family from something that they had going on. And they meet back up as adults, and it just gets very, very weird. Sayaka Murata knows how to write a book, though. This was a head twister. Like, my head was twisting the whole time. There's a lot of twists and turns, stuff that you thought you would expect, but you would not expect. It was very, very interesting, to put it lightly. Like, this book is wild. So, if you into wild stuff, if you want to take your chances on it, I'm not necessarily recommending it, but you do you. This next book is probably my favorite book of all time. That's just me personally. I'm still on my reading journey, so who knows if that's going to change. But for right now, my favorite book that I've read so far in general is Blacktop Wasteland by S.A. Cosby. And if you watch my videos, you know that S.A. Cosby is probably my favorite author as well. He's such an electrifying writer. And I know I use that word electrifying all the time when I talk about him, but I really do mean that. Like when you read what he puts on this paper, like I'm getting goosebumps right now. You can feel it in your body. You can feel it in your soul. Blacktop Wasteland was an excellent, excellent read. It was basically about a man named Beauregard Bug Montage. He used to live a bad life. He lived a bad life and he got himself together. He got a business. He's legit. You know, he's trying to do his thing. He's trying to do right. A play comes along and he can't pass it up. It's something that he can't pass up. And he goes back into that life. And he does a jewelry heist and it gets crazy. This book really resonated with me because I'm not saying that I was this super thugged out person, but I lived a very, very crazy life. And I'm only 27. Yeah, we ain't gonna get too deep into it, but this book really resonated with me. I felt like I was watching it as I was reading it, like if it was a movie playing in my head constantly. And even when I was not reading this book, I was thinking about this book. I'm going to give this book a 6-star rating. I ain't really that big on ratings. I'm not no rating aficionado. This book was 6 stars to me. Why am I explaining it to y'all? I feel how I feel. This book was 6 stars. Point blank, period. Shout out S.A. Cosby. I love you, dog. So this is a book that I'm reading currently, but I'm loving it. And that is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Now, again, I haven't done my due diligence, and I'm sorry. I've heard that this is another controversial author, so do what you will with that information. But I'm reading this book, and I'm only 97 pages in. I've been slacking a little bit. But I love this book so far. Everybody said that this book wasn't that good, and I mean, obviously, I'm only 97 pages in. I haven't even made triple digits. I really like what's going on so far. This is one of my first, like, real fantasy books, and the world building is amazing. I don't know how everybody else felt about it, but the world building in this book is like super good to me. I don't know if it's just because it's my first fantasy book, but I'm here for it. Affair is her name. She a dog. She a beast for real. And the fairies, and I can't remember all of the like characters and the names of beasts and everything that's going on, but the way that everything is happening in this book and the way that everything is being described, the world building is really good to me. And the story, the way that it's flowing is fire. Like, I'm here for it. I can't wait to see what's going on next. Like, something crazy just happened in the chapter that I just started. And I'm really excited to like read it and get into it and see where it goes from there. Because how did that happen? Are they tricking you? I feel like you're smarter than what's gonna happen, but I don't know. I might have failed for that trick too. You know, they say tricks is for kids, but adults get tricked all the time. You hear me? This book right now, I can't give it a rating, but I wanted to show y'all that I'm reading it. I'm trying to do my thing, man. I can't give it a rating right now, but I can tell you that it's going to be a good rating based off of what I've read so far. That's that. So this book is a book that I have not really put on none of my videos. It's a book that I've read more than 3 times, honestly. And that is Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Now, this isn't a book that I usually talk about on my channel, but this is a book that is really, really instrumental in like who I am and the way that I think about elevating my life. You know, this was a book that one of my college football teammates put me on. I'm all over the place. But now that I'm thinking about it, I did talk about this book before in one of my videos. I love Robert Kiyosaki. I have 4 or 5 of his books, and they all are amazing. They all are helpful. And if you're into any facet of elevating your life, read Robert Kiyosaki. He will explain it in terms that children can understand, and that's what I really like. I appreciated that. It's a really good finance book. So if you're into this type of stuff, go get it if you haven't read it. You can tell it's been through some war. To give this book a rating, I would give this book a 4.5 for sure. You gotta put it up there. You know what I'm saying? It might not be a perfect 5-star, but you gotta put it up there. This is one of them ones, for sure. Another self-help book that I got that is really instrumental to me is The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Let me get y'all into that cover real quick. Boom. The Four Agreements. Now, the Four Agreements to me is really more like a personal promise to yourself, because some of the Four Agreements are don't take anything personally, be impeccable with your word, and things like that. I can't remember all four agreements, but even just those two, to be impeccable with your word. You got to be a person of your word. Your word is bond. You know, if you say something, then do it. You know, and I really take that to heart, and I think that's something that a lot of people should take to heart, and a lot of people should do. And then don't take nothing personally. That one has really changed me. That one really helped me 100%. I'm a very emotional person, and not in terms of sadness, but I get angry fast. I tend to, lash out because I feel like somebody's taking something out on me, and it's not personal. This book really taught me a lot. It's helped me shape myself into the man that I want to be. So Don Miguel Ruiz, I really appreciate you. This book for sure is another 4.5. I don't know if I'm just giving out blank ratings, but I love it. This was a very instrumental book for me, so 4.5 it is. Woo! We running through these books, y'all. It's only 19 books. And I don't say only, like that's not a lot of books, but I plan to read more than that. So it's only to me. Read at your own pace. If you want to read one book a month, you do that, because that's your pace. Don't let nobody tell you that you need to be reading more, or that you're a slow reader or whatever. You are who you are. That's what I had to figure out. And that's what I'm telling y'all. That's my little gem for today. The next one we got is Toni Morrison, The Bluest Eye. This book was important. It was very important. Now, I talked about this book before, and I'll say it again. I didn't enjoy this book, but it was important. Like, this was a good book. I just didn't enjoy it. It was a hard read, and I feel like a lot of Toni Morrison's books are hard reads, and you have to really focus on what she's talking about and get the underlying themes and everything that she's talking about in her books to even grasp what she's writing. Now, this book was about a girl named Pecola Breedlove. She lived a tough life, and she just wanted to be pretty. She wanted to basically be a white woman. She wanted to have blonde hair, blue eyes, because she felt that everybody thought her black skin and dark hair and everything else was not good enough. So she wanted to be white, essentially, a blonde white girl. This really just talked about family values, family dynamics, loving yourself, and just a lot of other themes that you have to read the book to really get into. Like I said, I didn't necessarily enjoy it, but I really do feel like this is an important read. Toni Morrison is just a great writer, though. Like, let's not get it twisted. Let's not get it twisted, twin. Toni Morrison is a very, very good writer. For a rating, I would give this book a 4-star. Just straight up 4-star, because everything in this book, to me, again, is instrumental and is relevant. If you read it, like I said, it's a hard read, but shout out to you, Toni Morrison. This is an amazing book. Next up on the list is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I love this book, y'all. I would recommend this book to any and everybody, especially all of my family. Matt Haig is a self-help author. Let's just put that out there. This book is so much more than a self-help book. This is a fiction book, and it talks about a woman's life who she just feels like a loser. Like, for lack of a better word, she feels like a loser, nothing's going right. And she goes into this thing called the Midnight Library. And the Midnight Library is like the space between life and death, where you can kind of choose the life that you want to live, and you can see what other lives that you live. She was going through all of the lives, and she was having a lot of adventures, figuring a lot of stuff out. And you can really resonate with it, because a lot of people feel like this. A lot of people feel like they're not doing their best. They're not living the life that they want to live. When you really get down to it and you can choose whatever life, you kind of realize that the life that you're living is the life that you're supposed to be in. I'm not trying to get all deep, but that's just the way it is. And Matt Haig put this in this book beautifully. I'll give this book a good 4.2 for sure. 4.2, probably 4.1. There was some things in here that I didn't like, but I can't talk about them because I'll spoil the book. I didn't do this on purpose, but this is just the way these books are stacking right now. So the next book we got is Atomic Habits by James Clear. I talked about this book before. This book right here really put me back on track. I was a few years younger. This book put me back on track because it just shows you that the small habits can have the biggest effect. I attribute this book to a lot of who I am right now, today. But again, this book really just talks about super practical ways to install habits into your routine and into your life to make big changes, over time, because the biggest habits or the biggest changes aren't always the best. Sometimes the small things are what's best for you in the long run. Shout out to James Clear. Shout out to Atomic Habits. If you haven't read it, read it. I'm not going to guarantee it, but you'll like this book for sure. You'll like it. And if you don't like it, you'll still take something from it. I give this book a 4.3. 4.3. Yeah, 4.3. I give this book a 4.3 for sure. Amazing book. Y'all, I got a book by an author that y'all know I love. I'm a S.A. Cosby stan for real. I'm not gonna lie. I followed him on Instagram. That's my dog. He like one of my pictures. He like, what about real? Shout out to S.A. Cosby, man. But this book is All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. This was a very good read. And again, I say it time and time again, S.A. Cosby is one of the GOATs of writing to me. And granted, I don't know that many writers. I haven't read a plethora of books, so to speak, but I love the way S.A. Cosby writes. This book was about Titus Crown, who was the first black sheriff in his town. And he had to deal with a lot of murders popping up and a killer on the loose and things like that. He has to prove to the town that he is up for the task. This book was really good. Had a lot of good twists and turns. It kept me engaged the whole time. And again, I felt like I could see it in my head. I felt like every word that I was reading, I was sitting in the movie theater and watching it on the screen. So I really appreciate that from S.A. Cosby. He's a very descriptive and engaging writer, and I like that. So I will give this book a solid 4.4. 4.4 for sure. All right, y'all. So we're getting short on the stack. The stack is getting shorter, I promise you. We're almost there. Just bear with me, y'all. Because y'all love me. Y'all love me, right? Just bear with me. We almost done. I'm not going to keep y'all too much longer. Just rock with Cousin Five, man. So the next book we're going to talk about is The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, MD. This book, again, is a very, very, very integral part of my life. Because, like I said earlier, I do tend to get angry. I do tend to get upset. And this book really talks about cases that Bessel van der Kolk went through and just exploring the body and learning how your body really talks to you, learning how your body reacts to certain things, how you can adjust. I can really attribute this book to helping me mentally, helping me emotionally, and really understanding myself. And when I got done reading this book, I was just blown away. I was blown away at how I felt. I was blown away at the things that I was thinking afterwards. It was a lot more positive thoughts. It was a lot more engaging and trying to figure out what was really going on. Like I really wanted to, get right with myself. I'm not going to talk too much about it. If you really want to get a book, please get The Body Keeps the Score. It's very scientific and it talks about a lot of diseases like PTSD and depression, things like that. And it really just gets to the nitty gritty. I give this book a 4.8 just because it was so important to me. All right, let's talk about Sula by Toni Morrison. This book was the first Toni Morrison book I read, I believe. And I actually really liked this book. It was a hard read. Liked it nonetheless because the things that she was talking about in this book, I was just like, wow, how could I have not thought about this? This book was basically about two girls who were friends and they were like peas in a pod. And they grew up together. You could not, if you seen one, you seen the other one. As they got older, things started to happen or whatever, and they split off. One went somewhere else. They didn't see each other for a long time. And when they come back, things are a little weird, and it just turns into something that you wouldn't even expect. Toni Morrison really just talks about the hard things, but makes it easy to understand by the way she writes. And when I say that, I don't mean her writing is easy to read, but when you understand what she's saying, it makes it easier. I don't know if that makes sense, but it made sense in my head. If you haven't read it, I suggest you go pick up Sula and read it. But take your time and actually try to understand what she's talking about and really dive into the themes and topics that she brings up in this book and the underlying themes and topics that happens as you read. So I give this book a 4.3. I'll give this book a 4.3. I think that's fair. I can't remember what I did it. I can't remember what I rated it on Goodreads, but I'll definitely give it above a 4 for sure. 4 plus. Let's just say that. 4 plus. Because this is a good book. Next one we're going to talk about is 1984 by George Orwell. This was a hard read. I'm going to keep it a beam with y'all. I seen so many comments that people read this book in school. It was a book that people read for homework and things like that. And I really just got into the mindset that I'm reading it for school. I haven't been in school in years. But I felt like I was in school when I was reading it, and it kind of turned me off to the book. But I finished it because George Orwell is an amazing writer, and stuff that they talk about in this book relates to today. So that's what really kind of kept me engaged and really kept me interested in the book itself. Because although it was hard to read and although I just wasn't like in the mood to read it, George Orwell laid it out perfectly. And I feel like I didn't explain it, but this book is basically about Winston, who's going up against Big Brother. Now, we all know who Big Brother is, the government, and they have control over everything. They see everything, but Winston, he's determined, trying to uncover a lot of things. So you go on that journey with him. And like I said, George Orwell laid it out in a very clear and concise way, for the most part, kind of see what he's going through. I give this book a solid 3.9. I don't give it a 4. Just because just the way I felt when I read it, still a good book. And I would recommend this book. If you like dystopian sort of books, I recommend 1984. Whew. Y'all, this was a book that I did not expect to like. I picked it up because, first off, it's 2 black characters. Secondly, it's a YA book, and I kind of wanted to get into, YA, and it's a romance book, and I love romance. That is Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. This book caught me off guard because it seemed very childish at the beginning. Like, it seemed really juvenile, and I didn't know if I was going to like it. But once the characters really got into it and they started displaying like actual feelings and showing themselves and being who they are to each other, it really hit me in the feels, man. It hit me right in the feels. Talia Hibbert is a fire author. I love the way she wrote this. It's very descriptive, and it wasn't too much, like it wasn't too much enemies. It wasn't too much lovers. It was like the perfect blend of enemies to lovers, or best friends to enemies to lovers. And the way that they were just helping each other and figuring stuff out on the fly. It wasn't premeditated. They were figuring stuff out as they went along, and that's realistic. I felt like I was back in high school when I was reading this book. This was a really good book. I loved reading it. I ate this book up in, I think, 2 days. I give this book a 4.1. 4.1. Gotta give it above a 4, but it wasn't like super amazing where I want to give it above a 4.5. Shout out Talia Hibbert. Amazing book. Can't wait to read more of this author. I'm not even about to introduce this book. I'm going to just show y'all the cover, then I'm going to talk about it here. A love song for Ricky Wilde, Tia Williams. Let me catch my breath real quick. This was one of the best books that I've ever read again. Like, this book was phenomenal. Tia Williams, you know how to put that pen to paper and make somebody fall in love. Because that's exactly what I did when I started reading this book. I fell in love. It was slow at first. I'm not going to lie to y'all. I was into it, but I kind of wasn't into it. Like, I'm going to keep it a buck. When it got to a certain point, I was like, oh my God. I went crazy. This is a beast of a book. And when I say a beast of a book, I don't mean length, because it's not that long of a book. It's a beast of a book from the things that goes on. Because you don't expect what's going to happen in this book. This is a romance book, but you don't get much romance at the beginning. It's not your traditional romance book for me. It's more of like a historical romance, and you'll understand when you read it. If you're into that type of stuff and you love romance and you want to give a book a chance, Please give this book a chance because A Love Song for Ricky Wilde is top tier for sure. For sure. I will give this book a 5-star rating, even 5 stars. Like, I couldn't put it down, didn't want to put it down, and I'm probably gonna read it again soon. That's what you gotta know. Man, I'm not gonna lie, we ending off with some really good books because this next book is top tier as well, and that is Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. Now, I told y'all, S.A. Cosby is one of my favorite authors, and he did not disappoint. Y'all said that Razorblade Tears was his best book, and I have to agree 100%. This book is about Ike Randolph and Buddy Lee, who have 2 sons that are gay, who were married, but they got offed. And the dads weren't in their lives as much when they're alive. But I mean, you still love them. So after they pass away, the dads really try and find out what happened. And you go on this whole adventure on them trying to figure out who offed their sons. And it is so captivating from every single page. The characters, you can see the growth in the characters from beginning to end. You can see the different themes of love and sexuality and racism and all of these other things that intertwine throughout this book and just bring everything together. This book is sensational. 6.5 stars. 6.5. I gotta give it 6.5. This is better than Blacktop Wasteland, I think. Is it? I don't know. I think it, I don't know. I'm gonna give it a 6. I'm gonna put this up there with Blacktop Wasteland. But I do think that this, for me, was a better read because I like I said, I tore this book up. And the stuff that they was talking about, I wasn't expecting it. And I could feel the emotion in this book. I could feel every single thing that was going on. So I really appreciated that. S.A. Cosby, I rock with you. All right. So now we at the last book, y'all. And this is crazy because this is the last book of this video, but this is one of the first books that I came to YouTube with. So without further ado, we have First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. I already told y'all how much I love this book. I told y'all how much this book really sat with me, and I ate this book up from page 1 to the last page. Because the way that Ashley Elston wrote this book and the twists and turns that happened in this book, I had Netflix, I turned on Netflix in my head because how can you write a book so well that I'm visualizing every single thing? And this isn't a book that really like resonates with me, but this is a book that was captivating from beginning to end. Now, this book was about a woman named Evie Porter, and she has a boss who we're going to call Mr. Smith. Now, Mr. Smith was giving her missions. He was sending her on missions to steal from people, insert herself in people's lives, act like somebody else, and get whatever she needed for her boss. But this last mission turned out to be something that she never, ever expected. It goes left, right, up, down, center. Wherever it needed to go is where it went. And when you read this book, you will understand what I'm saying, and you will know that this book is fire. Super hot fire. So I will give this book a good 4.9 because it's really one of them. And I'm telling you, when you read it, you will like it. I recommended this book to a few people that I know, and when they read it, they said this book was amazing. They said this is probably one of the best books they've read. And I'm here for that because I want everybody to read this book. That's just how I feel. So shout out to you, Ashley Elston. I need to read some more of your work. But fam, that's all we have for today. That's 19 books. I know it took a little minute. I know, I kind of rambled a little bit, but that's what you do when you talking to family. That's what you do when you comfortable with your family. Again, I'm sorry that I took so long to make another video, y'all. Like, I really feel like there's a little disconnect, and I'm not here for that. We need to be connected. That's it for the video, y'all. I really hope y'all like the books that I read. If you feel like you got some recommendations in here, you heard some books that you want to read, I say you go get them. That's what we here for. I'm here to share. I want to see what y'all talking about in the comments. If you got some books that you think I need to read, put them in the comments. I'm here for that. That's all. Cousin 5 out. I love y'all. Peace.